Greetings and salutations to one and all. Welcome to a brand spanking new week right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. How you doing? I feel like I haven't done this in ages. Yeah, I wasn't able to do a live show on Tuesday and Wednesday. But thank y'all for the helpful words, the tips, the home remedies. Truly appreciate of it. Still working through it, you know? But glad to be back in the air chair. I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in, those on One Harmony Radio across the pond. Big ups to you guys over there in the UK. Those on WGLRO, home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show. Donnie just came back from vacation. Welcome back, bro. I'll be welcoming you back for the rest of October. Also big ups to all those on ClintonLindsay.com, the Foundation Radio Network. Those on RGR, Reggae Global Radio. Because we got to have the rolling of the R's. Big ups to those on PEMGTV.com. Welcome. And of course, right here at the home of the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. So glad to have you. I couldn't do it without you. And you have my word, I wouldn't even try. Bobby, how you doing? Early bird, you get the worm. Are you ready?
Ready for me. Them ready for way.
The sound of Zan.
Right now I turn up and I can't sleep. Thank God my problems under my feet. I am more on my
It's called Remember.
feet. You don't know my scene. I win everything.
I want to say big ups to the GM.
And when I reach it, let me know.
Those of you who don't know who that is, that's Marlon, host of Real Rockers.
Find me soaking wet. If I ever come with you, know you can't forget. Remember me, so grateful for all I get. Every dollar in my wallet, but never ready yet. But when it comes to Fed, boy, you know that I still want leading.
Thank you for paying tribute to those who paved the way for reggae music in the US, the Afro-American,
I still want leading me back.
and those who are not Afro-American, like those who hail from Texas.
Ready yet, them ready yet.
They were quite ready,
Oh, them
like Johnny Nash. Yeah, Marlon.
no.
Music edutainer extraordinaire. If you don't catch Real Rockers,
Ready for me.
y'all need to start catching that show. Mondays and Wednesdays, 7 to 10 Eastern Time.
Thank God my
Reggae Global Radio and several other platforms.
I am more on top my car seat. You don't know my scene. Yeah. I win everything, every dance, every day. And when I reach it, let me know. Step in there. That's why I fall down inside all them said when they find me, I soaking wet. If I ever come with you, know you can't forget. Remember me, so grateful for all I get. Every dollar in my wallet, but never ready yet.
sound of Zan, it's called Remember. I want to welcome those who are tuning in on Facebook Live. Remember, it's only temporary. Go over to kevinstew.com for the entire broadcast without a hitch. Inviting you all to call a friend, tell a friend. It's community and finance right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew. I want to say thanks to Paul C Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. Innovative streaming and recording solutions needed? Go ahead and call Paul C Media Group. When being in a moment is priceless, these are your people to talk to. 754-999-6020 or hit them up at pulseemg.com. They can do everything you see right here on kevinstew.com and so much more. We're talking about streaming your broadcast, streaming your live event in these times of social distancing and virtual events. There are some good people to connect with. A good source to have. If you want to do some internet TV broadcasting, you want to have your own station or a few channels, they can hook you up. Tell them DJ Kevin Stew sent you. Now, there are some people who weren't ready and they just fell into their situation, whatever situation it was that they ended up in. But there are some that were placed in certain situations. And whether or not Daniel Prude was one such person, we don't know. But what happened to him in the end could very well have been avoided. Yeah, it didn't have to go down that way. And based on information that I came across as I was doing some research, it points more and more to that very point, that very matter, that it didn't have to go down that way. Daniel Prude didn't have to die. Not on that night in March in Rochester, New York. He didn't have to die. And there's more information that is coming out relating to Daniel Prude. Mark my words. But I really had to present this information for those who did not get to come across this bit of information. They didn't hear it, they didn't see it, they didn't whatever. First off, courtesy of Michael Wilson and Edgar Sandoval of in an article they presented to New York Times. They said, hey, there's some more to this thing than what really meets the eye. Basically, they're saying officials in Rochester spent months trying to suppress video footage of the police encounter that led to Mr. Prude's death. City records show how officials sought to frame the narrative around Daniel Prude's death in the hours and days after his encounter with the police. And they have an image of a part of a document with written in red the words, "Make him a suspect." Now, if that was not a doctored piece of information, if that is the actual bit of information that they took a picture of, then shouldn't some people be held accountable? So let me give you some information. This was September 15, 2020. It was early June, days after the death of George Floyd. and cities around the country were erupting in protests against police brutality. In Rochester, the streets were relatively calm. But behind closed doors, police and city officials were growing anxious. Why? A black man by the name of Daniel Prude died of suffocation in March after police officers had placed his head in a hood and pinned him to the ground. The public had never been told about the death. But that would change if body camera footage of the encounter got out, which, of course, we now know it later did. We certainly do not want people to misinterpret the police officers' actions and conflate the incident with any recent killings of unarmed black men by law enforcement nationally. This is what a deputy Rochester police chief wrote in an email to his boss. That would simply be a false narrative and could create animosity and potentially violent blowback in this community as a result. His advice was clear. Do not release the body camera footage to the Prude family's lawyer. And the police chief replied minutes later, I totally agree. The June 4 exchange was contained in a mass of city documents released on Monday, which was, so this was the 15th of September. So that would have been either the 14th or the 7th, because the 15th was a Tuesday. So those documents were released that show how the police chief, Laron Singletary, and other prominent Rochester officials did everything in their power to keep the troubling videos of the incident out of the public view and to prevent damaging fallout from Mr. Prude's death. One of the interesting things about Daniel Prude's death is that we're not hearing anything about it since, or we haven't really heard anything about it since, the week after it pretty much came out. So, you kind of wonder what has happened to the whole investigation around the Daniel Prude's death. And I really believe that's a relevant question to ask. What happened to that bit of information? The dozens of emails, police reports, and internal reviews reveal an array of delay tactics, from citing hospital privacy laws to blaming an overworked employee's backlog in processing videos used in that mission. The documents show how the police attempted to frame the narrative in the earliest hours, playing up Mr. Prude's potential for danger and glossing over the tactics of police officers who pinned him naked and hooded to the ground before he stopped breathing. In a police report on the confrontation, marking a box for victim type, an officer on the scene listed Mr. Prude, who the police believed had broken a store window that night, simply as an individual. But another officer circled the word in red and scribbled a note: make him a suspect. Mr. Prude's death has sparked protest in Rochester, as well as accusations of a cover-up from his family. Earlier this month, the city's lawyer, Lovely Warren, suspended 7 officers involved in the encounter. This was earlier in September. The documents were contained in a 323-page internal review of Mr. Prude's death and the city's action in the ensuing months. She cited the report, which she released on Monday, the 14th, in her decision to fire Mr. Singletary 2 weeks before he was to step down. Mr. Prude was found by the police around 3 a.m. on March 23rd, ranting naked in the street, telling at least one witness he had the coronavirus. Mr. Prude had just arrived at his brother's home in Rochester and was seemingly under the influence of PCP, his brother had told the police. Officers handcuffed him, but when Mr. Prude ignored orders to stop spitting, they placed a hood over his head. Now, he became agitated, and 3 officers pinned him, one leaning heavily on Mr. Prude's head. Mr. Prude's pleas changed to gurgling noises as he stopped breathing. He was removed from life support a week later. Now, do note that that little bit there about him being removed from life support could be very vital information later on. And when I say later on, I'm not necessarily talking about later on tonight. I'm saying stay tuned, because there is more investigation that is going on behind the scenes as it relates to Mr. Prude's death. Take it from me. You heard it here first. Now, so in their incident reports, 644, yes, I'm back, and no, it wasn't a case of hibernation. It was a case of laid upation. I was laid up in pain. All right, so in their incident reports, officers described the encounter with Mr. Prude as peaceful until he began spitting and demanding a gun. After officers restrained him, he threw up and then became unresponsive, a police lieutenant wrote in an email 4 hours later. A preliminary review of the incident singled out Officer Mark Vaughn, who restrained Mr. Prude's head using a segmenting technique until he appears to ease pressure to the area. When we talk to the officers from the Lauderdale Police Department, again, we're going to have to ask them about techniques for subduing suspects or restraining suspects. Because, again, you know, you have your right way and your wrong way to do it, right? So, what were they doing that led to, that led to Mr. Prude's death? Now, in fact, and this is basically a matter of fact from the reporting investigators, or the investigative reporting that was done, Officer Vaughn leaned heavily on Mr. Prude's head in a push-up position that lasted 68 seconds. A New York Times analyst of the body camera footage actually showed this. He relented after Mr. Prude appeared to have lost consciousness. Police officials would later say Mr. Prude suffered a drug overdose. That, again, is vital information. So he was on life support for a week, and he allegedly, was suffering from a drug overdose. So pay attention. You'll be quizzed later on. Mr. Prude's brother, Joe Prude, and other family members had immediate doubts that he died of an overdose. They contacted a lawyer, Elliot Shields, who filed a legal notice on April 3rd compelling the city to preserve evidence from the encounter. A prosecutor to a wrongful death lawsuit. A precursor to a wrongful death lawsuit. He also filed a demand under the state's Freedom of Information law that all documents and videos pertaining to Mr. Prude's arrest be handed over. On April 10, the county medical examiner released its autopsy findings, ruling Mr. Prude's death a homicide from asphyxia and noting the PCP in his system. Chief Singletary wrote a summary of the incident. Officers did stabilize the individual on the ground. For Justin Raj, the city's communications director, that's what he wrote in his incident report. Officers did stabilize the individual on the ground. The mayor has been in the loop, the chief wrote. Mayor Warren has said she was not told of the struggle with officers that preceded Mr. Prude's cardiac arrest, only that he had suffered a drug overdose. So now, here comes but I didn't get that part of the information. And on one hand, and on the other hand, you have but we told the mayor, we kept the mayor apprised of what was going on. So, is it a CYA on the mayor's side or a try to CYA on the chief's side? By April 21, that was my mother's birth date. By April 21, the State Attorney General's office had informed local officials that it was opening an investigation into the death. Days later, the Rochester police concluded its own investigation. The officers' actions and conduct displayed when dealing with Prude appeared to be appropriate and consistent with their training. That was what was on an internal report. So, you're telling me that these officers were taught to apply pressure to someone's head on the pavement while they were naked in freezing weather? Is that how they were trained? You know, if anybody at all can help me out with some of that information, I'd greatly appreciate it. 773-789-STEW gets you in touch. 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp. If you're overseas, you can Skype me, Kevin.Stew. Jump into the stew pot on kevinstew.com, where we keep things interactive. For those of you who don't know what a stew pot is and you're wondering what is a stew pot, others call it a chat room. We're just fancy over here on kevinstew.com. So it's a stew pot. Come on in, the water is always fine. It's where we keep things interactive and bubbling. We just ask that you keep things on the up and up. Be respectful. It's a judgment-free zone, so we do respect and invite your comments. But we ask that you keep it respectful. Again, can somebody help me out with the training part? Are the officials saying that this is what the police was trained to do? And if this is what they were trained to do, I'm going to pull the race card here. Has any of the white people that were arrested in Rochester treated that way? Yeah, I'm going to pull the race card. I'm going to toss a race card out there. For the sole purpose of leveling the playing field and to address questions from various angles. Basically, I'm asking, does everybody get treated that way? If you were on drugs and you were spitting, they put the bag over. If I've seen the spit bag being placed over someone's face, over someone's head. I've seen that before. But to have that and then to be placed on the cold asphalt. This is March in Rochester, New York. It's not like this is March in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This is Rochester, New York. March. That's cold. And it was a wet night. If you look on the video, you can see it was a wet night. There's no way that would have been wonderful conditions. And PCP or no PCP, the man is naked. Whatever happened to the humane side of interacting with individuals, whether criminal or not? Doesn't that account for anything? A comment here in the stew pot. If you have a family member or friend or acquaintance that is having an apparent mental health crisis, please do not call the police. For God's sake, please do not call the police. Unless you want to lose that family member or friend. They will be dead because law enforcement is not properly trained to handle mental health crisis in black individuals. Now, that's a powerful statement to make. And a bit of a hurtful one at the same time. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to talk some more. And I'm going to read that comment in the stew pot once more. Thank you, 644, for that. Because when you have conversations, when you have dialogue with individuals from organizations like NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and then you hear of cases like this, you really have to wonder. But we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're also going to say see you to Facebook Live. Come on over to kevinstew.com, those of you who are tuning to Facebook Live. And we're going to do the remainder of the broadcast there. This was just a little piece to share with you guys over there. All right? So, call a friend, tell a friend. It's a night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Community and Finance Night. And we're looking at Daniel Prude's Death Silence. Yeah, because they were trying to be dead silent on it. We'll be right back.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
Every 10 years, the census comes along and it seems like everyone I know always asks the same two questions. What is the census and why does it even matter? Let me give it to you straight. The census counts every single person living in America. An accurate count of our community tells us where there are more people. And where there are more people, there are more needs. Our participation could impact how public funding flows to our schools, health clinics, senior care, job training, and housing. It even determines our congressional representation. I don't know about you, but it sure sounds like the census matters to me. This year, take a little time for the 2020 census. You can complete it online, by phone, or by mail, and make sure you count everybody you live with. Your mama, daddy, sweetheart, babies, roommates, everyone. This chance only comes every 10 years, so let's step up and be counted.
Shape your future. Start here. Learn more at 2020census.gov. Paid for by U.S. Census Bureau.
It takes an entire village to raise a child. Hello, I'm Paul Campbell, here to talk about Palace. Peace and Love Academic Scholarship. This nonprofit group supports students facing serious obstacles from entering or continuing their studies, not because the grades are failing, but due to the lack of financial support.
Over the past 8 years, Palace has awarded 600 scholarships valued at approximately 50.3 million Jamaican dollars, or 415,000 US dollars.
Together, we must build a better future for our children. Please visit www.palace1.org and make your donation to brighten the future of a deserving child. Palace, preserving young minds for posterity.
I'm Khalib Thompson.
I'm David Muir.
And we are the co-founders of a cultural nonprofit in Florida called Island Space.
For many reasons, now more than ever, we need the support of our communities.
As Caribbean Americans, we have the unique ability to claim everyone from the island as members of our Caribbean American family.
We are working to create a home for that family.
The Island Archives will become an internationally recognized museum of history.
Visitors can learn that although we are unique, we are truly stronger together.
Learn more at islandspacefl.org.
Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dahchurchlinx.com, your links to worship and praise.
It's Christine representing for DJ Kevin. You see me, I say, I don't know the boss. You see me, I say, DJ Kevin's Stew and the night shift radio show. Yo, at the thing, turn up the thing loud. Whoa, DJ Kevin's Stew at the heart of a champion. Never underestimate, just choose him. The silver line behind the dark clouds. DJ Kevin's Stew, believe him, and that's no doubt. Salute the night shift radio show, Christine. Just heart it up loud. Kill it, peace.
I see them love. Oh yes, I see them. Lost in illusion. Lost in illusion. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them. Lost in delusion. And now they reside in the state of confusion. Why is it that my race remains poor? My race sitting on the jail floors. My race fighting to knock down doors. Same race they stole from across the shore. My race that built this great nation, still trapped on mass plantation. I see them love. I see them love. Oh yes, I see them. Lost in delusion. And now they reside in a state of confusion. Rwanda, Haiti, down in Darfur, Jamaica, they're crying out for murder, hunger. Why can't we come together and help one another? It only takes but one to start a revolution. Please don't play into the illusion. Oh, I see them lost, yeah, I see them lost, oh, in a state of confusion. Wake up, wake up, wake up, yeah. Oh, I see them lost. I see them lost. I see them running, running, running. Oh, I see them running. Oh, my people lost. Oh, my people lost, yeah. I wanna tell it to you now. I see them lost, lost in delusion, yeah. I see them lost,
This is the sound of Nikki Blaze.
lost in delusion,
The track is called Lost in Illusion.
lost.
I want to say thanks to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands for sponsoring this segment of the broadcast.
See them lost,
Althea is a licensed massage therapist that operates out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade and South Palm Beach counties.
I see them
She comes to you, she brings her table,
lost,
her Healing Heavenly Hands, of course, and her oils. She comes COVID free,
reside
and she'd love to leave that way.
state.
So don't call her if you have the virus, okay?
I see them
But do call her if you have sore muscles, a stiff neck,
lost, oh, lost in delusion.
in need of a good massage.
People you lost, oh,
Because that she can definitely provide. Call her 954-655-9000.
them love. Oh yes, I see them lost.
Email her at thealater@att.net.
I see them love. Oh yes, I see them lost.
Make arrangements for your appointment today. Today.
Now they reside in a state of confusion. I see them love.
For those of you just joining in, this is Community and Finance. Right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Steele.
Them love. Oh yes, I see them in delusion.
Talking about Daniel Prude's Dead Silence.
In a state of confusion.
So the comment that was made before we went over on the break. Thank you, Nikki Blaze. Track called Lost in Illusion. The comment that was made before we went off on the break, in the comment in the stew pot, reads, if you have a family member or friend or acquaintance that is having an apparent mental health crisis, for God's sake, please do not call the police. That's in all caps. Please do not call the police. Unless you want to lose that family friend or that family member or friend. Let me go back. Here we go. They'll be dead because law enforcement is not properly trained to handle mental health crisis in black individuals. All right. Let's first say not all law enforcement officers are trained to handle that. What we have learned recently, especially after having spoken with the executive director of NAMI, Broward, just last week, where she states, hey, listen, we have programs where we're working with law enforcement to equip them, to train them on how to handle individuals going through a mental health crisis. So much so that there are specific police officers that you can call. But the question is, does everybody do all the police departments all over the United States have those individuals in their police department? Now we know NAMI exists all over the US. So I'm thinking there really shouldn't be a reason for a program like this to be in every state. And, well, since police departments are in every city, they should have access to this kind of training. I don't know if it's too tall an order or what. Bobby says, we must see it as it is. Most cops are not evil or trying to hurt black people. Most are not racist. More than 99% of the men and women in uniform are out there trying to help and protect. Yes, we have cops who abuse their power, but that is not what makes this horrible. Those who abuse should be removed. The uniform should not help with the cover-up. Excellent statement. The question is, who is doing the removal? If these cops are backed by a union that has a particular agenda, then where does the life of the individual lost? Where does that play into the actions of that union backing this police officer? Because the union is going to fight for that individual's job. The union, and that's how I know the union to work. I haven't had the fortune of working in a job where there's a union that is there to go to bat for me. I've spoken to individuals who happen to work currently in jobs where there's a union, but for the most part, I got nothing. So, and yes, I am looking into getting more information on that also. For those of you who are wondering and already asking a question in your head, but Stu, you always doing research. Why don't you? Yeah. I'm already looking into that one. The cover-up lets us distrust. I'll not pretend that there are not cops that are bad at their job, quote unquote bad. They get a gun and abuse newly found power. True. Not everybody can handle the concept of power. And there are some individuals that get a badge and a gun for the wrong reasons. Now, without proper training and supervision, you could miss those individuals. But the other side of it is when you have a shortage of police officers, are you forced to kind of accept whomever it is that you get to cover all the bases and then deal with the potential fallout after? Again, 773-789 Stu gets you in touch. That's 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, you can WhatsApp. Let me hear from you. Share with me. Let's have a discussion. Let's keep the dialogue flowing. Jump into the Stew Pot, comment there. If you're overseas and want to comment, you can Skype, you can use WhatsApp and link with me with the number 773-789 Stew. And of course, again, the Stew Pot is there. I did not check in with those over there on Reggae Global. Let me just check in there really quickly. Greetings, Israel, Marikia. Welcome. It's your first time. Welcome. Tatiana, greetings to you. What time is it over there in Spain? If it's morning, buenos dias. If it's evening, buenos tardes. Yes. The stew pot, Tatiana, is the chat room, what others call a chat room. But because of our fanciness over here, it is a stew pot, and you'd visit it by going to kevinstew.com. But you can stay right there where you are on Reggae Global Radio. I'll pop in every now and then to communicate with you guys. It's not your regular show that you would hear on Reggae Global. It's more, this show is more talk than music, but you get some music later on. So stick with me. Bear with me, Tatiana. Pablo from Jamaica. Welcome, bro. All right, so we're talking about the Daniel Prude case, and we're looking at some of the comments in the stew pot currently. And Pablo, you hailing from Jamaica. Here it is. Bobby is saying some of these police officers, they get a gun, they abuse their newly found power, and this is in the US and in Jamaica alike. So you can relate to that, Pablo. You all know this, but the cover-up is just unbelievable. And listen, cases left, right, center, up and down, you have cover-ups. And the Rodney Reed case is one such case. And you hear me talking about Rodney Reed case over and over and over and over again. Coming up, I would suspect within the next couple of weeks now, between this week and next week and possibly the week after that, somewhere in there. But somewhere here in October, 2020 is supposed to be doing a special on the Rodney Reed case. You've heard me talk about it. You've heard me bring on individuals relating to the case in various capacities. Stacey Stites' cousin was on. A little girl back then that had allegedly been raped by Rodney Reed, her best friend, was on. We've had the consultant on the Reed case as a regular on here. So we've been talking about this and other cases similar to the Reed case. So when it comes to cover-ups, we are aware that this happens. One individual that I'm still trying to reconnect with is Scott Salmella, brother of Ed Salmella, who was a Bastrop police officer that allegedly committed suicide. Now, he was one of the officers involved in the Reed case also. And he allegedly committed suicide. The problem with his case is that he shot himself in the head using his offhand with a gun that he had already surrendered to the police. So you talk about cover-ups, they're all over. And that is one of them. Here's another comment in the stew pot. In the community where the individuals are black and brown, we do not readily admit that mental health crisis exists. We are not also equipped with resources to get the necessary and required help that is so desperately needed. We think that our only resolution is to call 911 to deal with the crisis because we're having an emergency. 911 is not and should not be used for mental health resolution. True. Whereas you'd think that you can just call 911 and that will take care of all emergencies. When it comes to mental health emergencies, somehow, some way, you call 911 and it's not the place to go. 911 dispatch apparently doesn't have that available to them as a resource. Which is kind of crazy because mental health crises can happen at any time. You know, it's not a given that it is going to happen at this time or at that time. It can happen anytime, and anyone can experience it. Um, da, 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 da. Let's see some comments here. I got a message earlier, and I think I missed it. I'll go back and find it in the next break. Yeah, we're not blaming the victim, Bobby. I'm not blaming the victim, and I don't think 644 is blaming the victim either. And actually, I'm not trying to justify the horrible action. I'm actually calling some attention to the horrible action. Because this, and Bobby, you are geographically closer to this incident than the rest of us are. But I'll tell you this. I'm actually going through the autopsy report for Daniel Prude. And I haven't had the opportunity to really sit down and look through it as yet. But I have it. And this is one of the reasons why I say we're not done with the information coming out on Daniel Prude. Not by a long shot. Not by, and it doesn't really matter some of the information that is put out there by some of the news media or mediums. It doesn't really matter. But all information, let's put it all together. Because when you mix that all up in that one big pot of stew, yeah, it's my show. I get to use that as an analogy. What you come up with will actually be pretty interesting because you're getting all kinds of sides. They said by April 21, the State Attorney General's office had informed local officials it was opening an investigation into the death. And days later, the Rochester police concluded its own investigation and said the police acted appropriately. In late May, Mr. Shields, the Prude's lawyer, began following up on his open records request, saying the deadline to hand over the materials had lapsed. But officials in Rochester were increasingly reluctant to turn them over. Mr. Floyd, George Floyd, remember him? Yeah. He died on Memorial Day, and scenes of unrest were spreading across the country. Mark Simmons, the deputy chief, shared his concern about blowback from the public, and he was not alone. I am very concerned about releasing releasing this prematurely in light of what is going on in Rochester and around the country. Police Lieutenant Michael E. Perkowski wrote in an email to Stephanie A. Prince, a city lawyer. I may be overthinking, but would think the chief's office and the mayor's office would want a heads up before this goes out. The officials who wanted to keep the videos away from the public appeared to find a convenient, if unlikely, means to do so. The Attorney General's inquiry, Mark Simmons, Miss Prince, and others reportedly suggested that the city not turn over records to Mr. Prude's family because the case was under investigation. A blanket exception to the open records laws. You see how conveniently the information is held back, is withheld. Mr. Simmons raised the possibility in his email to the chief to deny the records request based on the fact that the case is still active as it is currently being investigated for possible criminal charges to be brought forth by the AG's office, the Attorney General's office. Mr. Prince raised a similar strategy. The city could stall the general release of videos by allowing a lawyer for the Prude family to view them in a meeting with the Attorney General's office, but not be permitted to keep his own copies. She told others in an email June 4th that this idea came from Jennifer Summers, a state assistant attorney general. What her office typically does and what she suggested for this matter Ms. Prince wrote, is to invite a lawyer for the Prude family to view the case file in person, provided he agrees to sign an agreement that he cannot scan, copy, otherwise attempt to reproduce the information. This way, the Attorney General is making the file available to their family attorneys, the family's attorney, but we are not releasing anything to the public. She repeated the idea the following day. This way, the city is not releasing anything pertaining to the case for at least a month, more like 2 months, and it will not be publicly available. So, for those who were wondering how it is that this man died in March and news about it wasn't coming until August, and August, September. Well, actually, September, yeah. We're in October now, yeah. We just got this information. So, this is why all this information is seemingly new. The Attorney General's office had denied playing any role in releasing the videos. The Prude family and the greater Rochester community deserve answers, and we will continue to work around the clock to provide them, the State Attorney General Letitia James said in a statement. Copies of the videos were finally released to Mr. Shields on August 12, more than 4 months after they were requested. The videos were mailed via the U.S. Postal Service. Snail mail. He released them to the public September 2. The response was just as police, as officials had feared, filling blocks of downtown Rochester with protesters every night since, and rightly so. They should protest. Not only was this man wrongfully treated and killed as a result of the treatment, but they tried to cover it up. But what's more than that is he was in the hospital that very day. Daniel Prude was in hospital the day he died. How many people knew that? Alright, we're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll look at that bit of information before we get into our musical therapy. Because that's another key bit of information. And another bit of disturbing information. Real quickly before we jump into the break. Whenever the authorities know they are in the wrong, they try to use the laws that was meant to protect the public to facilitate the cover-up. Listen, one of the things that I've learned about the law is that it is for everybody. The person that it works with, that it helps the most, is the person that knows how to manipulate it the best. You check it out. Anybody. And if there are any attorneys that are listening right now, call me and prove me wrong. Correct me. Tell me that I spoke incorrectly, or I have a misunderstanding of it. But the laws are there to protect everyone, and they govern everybody under the law the same way. You're just protected a little bit better, or you are exposed a little bit more depending on who's manipulating the law. So you do your next best. Yeah, they say ignorance is bliss. Some people say ignorance is bliss. But you're right, Bobby. Ignorance, you'll pay a stiff price for that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulseemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.
Come on, smile. Oh, honey, he's still not smiling.
Maybe he's not a smiler.
Yeah, maybe he's just not a happy baby.
Maybe he's just being a boy.
Or maybe he's teething.
Maybe it's just a phase.
Maybe he has autism, and we can definitely do something to help.
Maybe is all you need to find out more about autism. No big, joyful smiles by 6 months is one early sign. Learn the others at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Hey yo, this is Caraman to let you know that right about now you are logged on to DJ Kevin Stew on the night shift. Don't move.
I'm from a place, police can't fit fi pass. Enough people body get lost. I'm from a place, to understand you have to live it, you have to know it. Concrete jungle, Kingston City, we living in the jungle. Where the lions roar and the snake them in the grass. See I'm blind and here and deaf and dumb and Christian ass. Concrete jungle, you not careful, you be lost. The weak easily break like a glass. And there is a valley, you have to know for troddy. And all the journeys are go bumpy, cause the roads are rocky. You have to strong to make it, the mission them can't stop it. Where every man a flip a thing, them want to see a profit. Get in the crumbles, poor people deserve more. Concrete jungle, concrete jungle, we're living in the jungle. I'm from that place, I'm from that place. I'm from that place, I'm from that place. We're black and rich and have no willpower. Trigger happy officer, kill you for your skin color. Swear say life sweet, but it bitter, yes it's still sour. And these are the things where we are discover. I'm from a place where you ta grow before them time. The little boy a 9 and him a clap a star 9. Sometimes me wonder what they on the mind. All them a heads are crying, them no care about the time. Jungle, New York jungle, jungle, Washington DC jungle, jungle, Jamaica jungle, jungle, Middle East jungle, jungle, UK jungle.
Want to welcome you back to the broadcast. This is the sound of Frostman Brilliant. No, it's not busy. Track is called Concrete Jungle.
I'm from a place, police can't fit fi pass. Enough people body get lost. I'm from a
I
place.
want to say thanks to Reggae Global Entertainment for sponsoring this segment of the broadcast. Reggae Global Entertainment will act as your booking agents, take care of your tour management, help with your social media marketing, take care of your copyrights, your publishing, your trademarks.
From a place.
Look about your business registration, your music production, your marketing and promotion, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034, or visit them at reggaeglobalentertainment.com. Tell them you heard about them on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. The sound of Frostman Brilliant. The track is called Concrete Jungle. And everybody knows the association of New York, or between New York and the concrete jungle. You know, so but parts of New York is more like real jungle. You know, you head to upstate New York and it's a whole different thing from New York. You know, it's a place so nice, allegedly so nice that they named it twice. But in this case, some not so nice things were happening. Which case? The case of Daniel Prude. Now, according to NPR.org, when Joe Prude called Rochester, New York police to report his brother missing, he was struggling to understand why Daniel Prude had been released from the hospital hours earlier. Joe Prude described his brother's suicidal behavior. Now, this was from an article on September 29th. Joe Prude said his brother jumped 21 stairs down to his basement head first. Joe says in the early hours of March 23rd, in a video recorded by a responding officer's body camera, Joe's wife, Valerie, described Daniel nearly jumping in front of a train the previous day on the tracks that run behind their house. The train missed him by this much, Joe says, and he was holding up his index finger and his thumb inches apart. When the doctor called me and told me they released him, I'm saying, how are you going to sit there and tell me you're going to release him when he was hurting himself? You weren't sworn to do that. And this is what Joe was saying on footage. At that point, in the recorded conversation, it was just after 3 a.m., Joe and Valerie Prude knew only that Daniel was missing. So they didn't know he was dead yet. But they knew that he was missing, delusional, and vulnerable. They didn't know his next encounter with the police would be fatal. Police would find Daniel minutes later, naked, acting irrationally, because he spat in the direction of officers and allegedly said that he had novel coronavirus. Officers placed a white hood called a spit hood over his head. When he started trying to stand up, despite being restrained by handcuffs, the officer placed much of his body weight on Daniel's head and pushed it into the pavement. Daniel died a week later when his family took him off life support. The county medical examiner's autopsy described his death as a homicide and listed the immediate cause of death as complications of asphyxia in the setting of physical restraint. After the police footage was released in early September, the incident garnered widespread attention as another example of a black man killed after an encounter with the police. Less attention has been paid to what happened to Daniel Prude in the preceding hours, when he was treated and released after psychiatric assessment at Strong Memorial Hospital, run by the University of Rochester Medical Center. On March 22nd, Joe Prude called police at about 7 p.m. because he needed help getting Daniel to the hospital. Daniel had been having problems with a PCP addiction, Joe told officers. Now he had begun telling Joe and Valerie that people were out to get him and he wanted to die. By about 11 p.m. that night, Daniel was released from the hospital, according to Joe and police records. He was calm as hell when he got back here. That's what Joe told the police. But that didn't last. He was fine for a little bit, then all of a sudden started acting crazy. Joe told police later that Daniel asked him for a cigarette, and when he went to get one, Daniel took off running. He was barefoot, wearing only a tank top and long johns in 30-degree weather. He was gone. Track star status. Hauled like Carl Lewis. Around 3 a.m., 4 hours after his release from the hospital, emergency dispatchers started fielding calls about Daniel Prude. His brother called to report him missing, and a tow truck driver had spotted him naked and bloodied on West Main Street, as reported by the police records. Police body camera footage shows that by 3:20 a.m., Officer Mark Vaughn was pressing Daniel Prude's head into the pavement. Now remember, he had a spit hood on also. While he was restrained, Prude's breathing stopped. An ambulance crew resuscitated him, allegedly. But he was in critical condition. His brain was damaged after being deprived of oxygen. He died a week later at Strong Memorial after being taken off life support. The University of Rochester Medical Center said patient privacy laws bar it from discussing the specifics of Prude's treatment and release, according to spokesperson Chip Partner. But in general, Partner added, the hospital is bound by a New York state law that requires patients to be released within 24 hours unless they have a mental illness that is likely to result in serious harm to themselves or others, and that requires immediate observation, care, and hospital treatment. Isn't the threat of suicide something that falls under that category of resulting in serious harm to self or others? Come on, people. The detail of Prude's encounters with law enforcement and the healthcare system offer a look into the practice of emergency psychiatry and how, as in many branches of medicine in the US, mistakes that field are disproportionately borne by black people. Oh, so you probably didn't have medical insurance. There you go again. You know, a lot of these medical institutions, they don't want to take care of you unless you have insurance. Forget the whole life thing. It's a business. You're just a number. You're a means to a paycheck or a payout. So, I'll get off that box for a moment. Medical decisions in a case like Daniel Prude's are high stakes with little margin for error, says Ken Duckworth, Chief Medical Officer of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Emergency psychiatric assessment is very challenging, and the potential for catastrophic outcomes following your decision is very real, he says. The hospital where Prude died has faced scrutiny over its treatment of psychiatric patients and discharge procedures before. So this is not something new, especially to this particular facility. In April 2018, federal inspectors found security officers at the hospital had used law enforcement restraint techniques against a pediatric psychiatry patient, breaking her arm and sending her to the emergency room. So she's there in the hospital under psychiatric care, and they used police restraint techniques, and broke her arm. So those even working in the facility, who should be at least a little bit aware of of psychiatric cases, they're like, whatever, bump that. Months later, inspectors found the hospital discharged a patient who was in the emergency room with a history of dementia and multiple medical problems. Despite a discrepancy in her address between her medical record and the information she gave hospital staff. Let her out. In early 2016, inspectors found that hospital staff had placed patients in ankle and wrist restraints without an order to do so, and placed another patient in restraints without documenting when the restraints were released. Restraints are meant to be used only with a physician's order, and federal rules require precise documentation of their use. None of these incidents at Strong Medical Hospital garnered media attention at the time they happened, or at the time the reports were made public. Now, in hindsight, and with social media being the order of the day, now all these things are coming out. Hospital spokesperson Chip Partner says that immediately after the April 2018 inspection, the hospital changed its public safety protocol, eliminating the use of law enforcement techniques to manage a violent patient unless the patient is being arrested. In addition, updated staff training and discharge protocols for psychiatric incidents now decrease the risk of discharging someone who is not ready to be released, Partner says. These protocols were well established in 2020 and had absolutely no bearing on the evaluation or treatment of Daniel Prude on March 22. None whatsoever. So here it is, a man comes into the hospital with suicidal tendencies and reports of such. And he was released. Based on what? Prude's case is unusual because the consequences of doctors' decision to release him have played out so publicly, says Namis Duckworth. Usually, emergency room psychiatrists never find out what happens to their patients. Now, isn't that a bit odd? And isn't that also a bit concerning? You make a very big decision, which usually has no known outcome. You put this person in the hospital, you go on to the next patient. You send this person home, you go on to the next patient. Duckworth adds that he would not second guess the actions of Prude's hospital team in the moment. But with the benefit of hindsight, there is overwhelming evidence that he had a psychotic illness and was quite vulnerable. He didn't need to die. But you didn't need hindsight to tell you that. That was information up front. The man jumped head first down 21 stairs. He tried to step in front of a train. Isn't that alone reason to at least keep him up for observation overnight? He wasn't even in the hospital for 6 hours, let alone 12. The Joint Commission, which certifies hospitals to receive federal funding, says it's reviewing Prude's treatment at Strong. New York State's Justice Center is investigating on behalf of the state's Office of Mental Health. The University Medical Center itself is still conducting an internal clinical review. Dr. Arthur Stewart, past president of the American Psychiatric Association, says unconscious bias can cloud clinicians' judgment and make it difficult for them to make the best possible decisions for their patients. It is very clear that in today's healthcare system, bias is built in structurally. Seeing a tall, imposing black man who is behaving aggressively puts in place a series of ideas and thoughts and assumptions that direct decision making. Basically, it is a stigma associated with being black and being strong or being big. Because apparently, all those individuals who are black, tall, and strapping or big are dangerous. All of them that have come in the news and have had encounters with the police apparently have ended up dead or are on death row. It's something about being a tall, an imposing black figure. I don't know what it is, and maybe I haven't had any of those encounters because I'm not tall and I'm not by by no means a big guy. I'm not. So maybe I will never have any such encounter. Well, I hope to never have any such encounter. Psychiatric disorders in black people are less likely to be taken seriously than in white patients. The unequal treatment starts early. How early? Black boys are viewed as adults more often than white boys of the same age. And this is what Stewart, who is also the director of the Center of Health Injustice involved in the Center for Health Injustice Involved Youth at the University of Tennessee. And she goes on to say, so a black child with a meltdown is described as aggressive, obstinate, oppositional, as opposed to traumatized, depressed, and anxious. Which is pretty much the description that would be given to a white child displaying the same issues. Those expectations follow black boys through adulthood and in the healthcare system, increasing the odds that doctors will view black men as a lost cause and provide subpar care. This is something that is real in our community. I am not making it up. It's not Stu making it up and putting it out there for people to say, well, that's what Stu does, that's his job. He's supposed to say things like that. No. I'm presenting you information that someone who has the credentials to make these statements, it's their statements. It's their words preserved on paper. So I'm not making it up. Stewart stressed that she does not have any direct knowledge of deficiencies in the care of Daniel Prude, but she says that black men like Prude are disproportionately likely to be misdiagnosed, mistreated, and written off as a result of structural bias and unconscious racism. I'm not too sure how unconscious that racism is, to be honest. Now, this is Stu talking. Because when you have this mindset, and it doesn't really matter where you are in the United States. Apparently, this mindset is there. You're black and you're having a psychotic episode. You are dangerous and aggressive. You're white and you're having a psychotic episode. You're anxious and a threat to yourself. In need of care. Versus in need of restraint. They're viewed differently. When I first started driving in the United States, I remember driving in Coral Springs. And Coral Springs, Florida is one of the more affluent communities. Well, sections of it anyway. But I do remember seeing cops pull over a vehicle. And this is after the pullover, but the occupants of the vehicle was white. They were white. And they were sitting on the curb. No restraints, no nothing. The cops standing there. They were white sitting on the curb. But then you hear of the other stories with the black kids getting pulled over and being placed in handcuffs for the very same thing that the white kids were being. And, you know, I have nothing against cops. Again, every month I have the Lauderhill Police Department coming and being guests on this very broadcast. And it is for that very reason, because fortunately for the Lauderhill community, the Lauderhill Police Department is a better representation of policing in the US community. I don't know how it is in other places, but the Lauderhill community really has good things to say about their police department. And you can check back in the archives on kevinstew.com with me talking to Officer Chauncey Sims and Lauderhill Police Chief Constance Stanley about some of the things that has been said and are being said about the Lauderhill Police Department. Now, if you disbelieve it, then you can always try to contact people that live in Lauderhill. You know, just pull up anybody on social media and ask them. You don't have to know them personally. Just reach out to somebody. You know, check the community that they live in or hail from or commenting from or whatever and see. I believe it's the reports that I've gotten. So, if it can happen in this community, it can happen anywhere else. And talking to the executive director of NAMI Broward, where she talks about getting involved with the police and training them when it comes to mental health cases and being called out for a mental breakdown situation. These things are needed in the worst way in our community, especially now when things are so stressful that anybody at any time can snap. Just like that. You know, 2 weeks ago I did the broadcast looking at bipolar personality disorders. And these things are real with no apparent cause, but anything can trigger it. Especially a traumatic event. Just witnessing a traumatic event can be a traumatic event for you. And that can cause a psychological breakdown or a psychiatric meltdown later on in life. And it could be as short as 2 days. It could be 20 years. We don't know. Because the brain is so powerful yet so fickle. And so you have someone like Daniel Prude who was going through things. And his brother called for the police to get help. When he ran off and got into an encounter with the police once more, the only help he got was a help to his grave. That's not what we want in our community. That's not what we expect to happen when we're calling for the police. And all you can wonder is, why would I want to call the police if I need help? If this is the kind of help that my friend, that was said in the stew pot earlier, people don't want to call 911 if their family or their friend, their loved one is having a psychotic episode. So now they don't know who to call. Call NAMI. There's a 1-800 number for them, and there's a NAMI everywhere. Google them. Use whatever search engine you want to use. Look them up. find the number for NAMI that is in your community. Keep that number, write it down and post it on your fridge, save it in your phone, do something. Contact them and get to know them. Start having a relationship with them, because you'd never know. The person that may need that help could be you. And I say NAMI because that's the organization I know. But there may be others in and around that provide the service in your community. Find them. Connect with them. And get to know the police officers in your community also. And if they don't have officers in that in that police unit, you know, make a suggestion to the police chief. Make a suggestion to whomever is in charge, and keep making the suggestion over and over and over, and write to your city officials. You know, call them up every day, email them, bother them, pester them. Because it could be you, it could be your child, it could be your parent, it could be your sibling, it could be your spouse that will need this help. If you don't do it, and you call on them for help, and the same thing happens to them that happened to Daniel Prude, what then? Where do you go at that point?
This world is so unforgiving, and I prove it every day. What's the purpose in us living if we're not sure? When a little baby's born, we can guarantee that the little child grows up to be one that we're proud of, one with so much love, one that we can build the future on. It's bitter, yes, it's bitter, needs blessings to dilute. I know, cause even the weather is telling the truth. So it rains, so it pours, nature's knocking at our doors. And with all of that, tell me, do we still ignore? Oh no, but no one seems to have this magic solution, no remedy or cure. Now every time I think about giving up, this power makes me wanna fight more. Fight for the will over children. Fight so that we can protect them. Fight so that love can repair it. Fight so that love will prevail it. Fight so that there will be no war. Fight so that no one robs the courage of. Fight for my brothers and my sisters. Those who are drowning in disasters. Oh, fight for the weak and afflicted. Fight in the war against the wicked. Fight for the dawning of a brighter day. Fight for a time when we can all say, love you, my brother and my sister. Regardless of color, we are people.
The track is called Call to Duty by the boss himself, Mr. Beresford Hammond. I want to welcome you to Musical Therapy. Much needed musical therapy. This is the sound of Korik. It's called Give I Faith.
In the time for link you cause me want this and me need that. Listen to me prayer cause we need you, we mean that. Listen to my prayer now, Joe. Tears them dread out a road I run red and me don't know if me I gonna make it home. Road boys and police running wild in the streets, and it feels like a war zone. Imagine me work so hard, I can't let down my guard, cause robbers want to take my one. But goodness and mercy will guide and protect me, so me know so me not alone. But I need faith to go on. In all this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong enough. Give me faith to go on. In all this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong. The hearts of men are grown desperately wicked, and them seek the taste of blood. No compassion for humanity. I'm wondering what they're made of. Jaja, something seriously wrong with your people. Them not seem to have no love. And I'm of that point of view that we need to turn to you to give us faith to go on. In a this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong enough. Give my faith to go on. In a this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong enough. But if you stand with us and help us to rise up, nothing can harm us, no. Cause we know that even in this time, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath. So we pray, and we wait. Oh, yeah. But in the meantime, we're calling on you. Hey, give us faith to go on. In our this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong enough. Give my faith to go on. In our this ya Gideon, I need your strength to hold on. Cause on my own I'm just not strong enough. On my own I'm just not strong enough. On my own I'm just
Yeah, because we can't do this thing by ourselves, you know?
I'm just not strong.
That's why we have a family, you know? You check out Reggae Global Radio, it's a family. You check out anybody that doing this broadcasting thing, you can't do it alone. And those that are trying to make a change in the community, you can't do it alone. Call on your friends, call on your neighbors. Do the responsible thing. When it comes time to do the voting, go out there and exercise your right. When it comes time to make requests to your city officials and your state officials, go ahead and make the requests, because those requests, they come back to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, yeah.
This is Shelly Sweet Shells.
Yeah.
Love we need.
Ooh, yeah. Can you feel it now? Can you feel it now? Raise that peace flag up high. Raise it up to the sky. Raise that peace flag up high. Raise it up to the sky.
I want to thank GMAT Music Solutions for sponsoring this segment of the broadcast. GMAT Music Solution providing sound, light, and stage production services, musical equipment, PA systems, audio engineers, DJs, bands, musicians, singers, and so much more. Give them a call, 754-307-GMAC. That's 754-307-4622. Check them out at gmatmusicsolutions.com. You can also do your online shopping there. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we finish up musical therapy. Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment. This is the sound of China Nicole. That's the title of the track right there.
Two little birds, Naya and Bingy. One is yellow, one is black and green. They're the prettiest, cutest birds one has ever seen.
Sound of Jadan. It's called Truth.
So why you want to defend yourself when you don't say a lie you want to tell a lie till you confuse yourself. Run down money and you don't got no help. Put your heart where you can't reach it. You ready? I see people things. Tell me why you want if it have a ulterior motive and it's no secret. Me come here so to speak it to everyone. Me come to reveal it. No more, me now hold no secret. Tell us the truth. Don't need no defense, no way. Why you want to defend yourself when you know say a lie you are tell? The truth, no calf, no argument. for me. Tell us the truth. Don't need no debate. No way. Why you a defend yourself when you don't say a lie? You a tell the truth. No God, no argument. No way. Why you a hype up yourself when you don't say a lie? You a
This is the anthem reggae band. Title of the track, What Kind of World?
When them a go tired of the fuss and fight, the youth them just a war and them a lose them life. Better them go find a little hustle and go pour on the gun. But the system a turn them in a outlaw. And me sure them a get charged for murder. But the youth them a get out of order, and them no care about no officer. What kind of world am we? No violence and crime. What kind of world am we? Too much killing all the time. What kind of world am we? No violence and crime. What kind of world am we? Youth them a lose them mind. But I really want them not penetrate. Sit down in a office and a hesitate. Them should have tried with the youth them a future before it's too late. Before the violence that broke out like cancer, better than go try find the answer. Look how much people get started, and still yet them don't know their father. What kind of world am we? No violence and crime. What kind of world am we? Too much killing all the time. What kind of world am we? No violence and crime. What kind of world am we? You them a lose them mind. What kind of world? Say what kind of world? Oh, what kind of world? I'm living in. What kind of world am we? No violence and crime. What kind of world am we? Too much killing all the time. When them
Oh, Tatiana, I didn't even get to address this earlier.
them a lose them life. Better them go find a little hustle and go.
Regardless of what you found when you searched for the stew pot,
System a turn them in a outlaw. We sure them a get charged for murder.
which I understand that in this stew pot, it does not lack intellectual coherence, okay? Just to get that out of the way. 6 minutes to the top of the hour, 6 minutes before I get out of here. 6 minutes before you get C-Roy. But before I do that and get out of here and hand over the baton, I want to say a blessed Earth date to this guy. The son of Hezi for all the Hezites. Y'all get to wish him happy Earth date. The track is called Better Off Than We.
My daddy said, son, just a very day of a That's why you will never see me up a better off than we. They got no love in their hearts for you or me. You will never see me up a better off than we. They only care for your soul for more riches and more vanity. They say up a better off than we. The streets light shine brighter, and if you're lucky, to know someone up there you will see. Yeah. They say up there is where the honest and hard-working folks stay. That's what they say. If you're worthy, you can have one of them house on the hills. Yeah. Still a youth from the ghetto who never had enough money to ever be accepted. Living next door to the privilege. No. So me tell mommy, say me nah go. Hope I better off than away. I don't wanna see her on her knees daily as the cleaning lady. Oh no, you will never see me up a better off than we. 'Cause they got no love in their hearts for you or me. Oh no, you will never see me up a better off than we. 'Cause they only care for so rich and so vanity.
Minutes to go. In the midst of the storm. Once you know that Jah is on your side, you know you can get through. So no matter what the stress you're encountering, remember that.
I won't be afraid.
The sound of sensational dynamic sound. Shauna Dazzle, Suzanne Sultry, and Dottie. The dynamic trio out of South Florida.
My job is stronger in every way. Make the news people chat, me no response with that. I know that everything will be okay.
Look how many storms you've already been through. Not one of them ever conquered you.
Some battles you fight on your knees, then you cut and go through. Cut and go through. 'Cause Jah is by my side. Yeah, I won't be afraid. Of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day. 'Cause Jah is by my side. 'Cause Jah is by my side. I won't be afraid, no, of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day. With Jah by my side, we're gonna be alright.
And this is how I leave you tonight. Remember, I'm back here tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 p.m. Eastern. KevinStew.com, ReggaeGlobalRadio.com, ClintonLindsay.com, WGLROPEMGTV.com. Tomorrow it's Healthy Love. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida, I bid you good night.
With fear and uncertainty,
we have been with Jah by our side. We will overcome, we will survive.
no kind of obstacles, no kind of barrier. We are gonna be alright.
'Cause Jah is by my side. 'Cause Jah is by my side. I won't be afraid.
I won't be afraid
of the terror that crawleth by night, nor the arrow by day. Yeah, 'cause Jah is by my side. I won't be afraid.
and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.